Hello learners, I am Ipshita Sasmal, Assistant Professor, Ambedkar University, Delhi. Today we are going to talk about listening abilities across the curriculum. Why do teachers need to develop listening abilities across the curriculum? Isn't it the job of the English teacher to develop the listening abilities of her students? It is important for every teacher to develop speaking abilities in his or her learners. This is important because every content course requires learners to discuss ideas, give their opinions, agree or disagree, explain certain ideas and concepts, make suggestions, and so on. When every content subject requires learners to present their ideas through speaking activities, it develops their speaking abilities across the curriculum. This creates opportunities for learners to speak in the classroom, and it helps them to learn interactional strategies. It gives them confidence in expressing themselves freely. Thus, learners, we can see that it is important to develop these abilities across all courses in the curriculum. Now we look at the importance of developing speaking abilities. In an interaction, the mutual efforts of participants makes ideas and concepts easier to understand. When learners in the classroom talk to their friends, peers, discuss ideas with their teachers, it becomes much easier for them to understand a certain concept in the classroom. Canale and Swain have called this strategic competence, and it is an important aspect of developing speaking abilities. Different types of content makes different linguistic and strategic demands on learners. Communicative tasks must form an important part of content courses. Every subject teacher needs to know how to include communicative tasks in her subject. This will help her learners to focus on meaning rather than form. In an English classroom, a learner focuses more on the form or the grammar. However, in a subject class or a content course, the focus of the learner is on the meaning or the subject matter. The learner is not thinking much about the language. In this way, the learner learns speaking skills unconsciously, and it helps him or her to develop his strategic competence in the language. We are now going to look at types of speaking tasks. Teachers can use different types of communicative tasks in their lessons. They can use scenarios where the learner is given a situation and needs to respond to it in pairs or groups. Teachers can also engage learners in discussions, which requires questioning skills and disagreement with a previous speaker. Presentations are a common way of engaging learners in speaking activities. In presentations, the learners plan, organize, and present to an audience. Short talks are also useful in identifying and presenting the main ideas of a text. Teachers can use short talks or small presentations to help their learners to present the main ideas of a chapter or a text. Class seminars help learners to respond to questions from the audience. This is an important skill that learners need to know. Every subject teacher can engage her students or learners in class seminars where the learners have to respond to questions from the audience. Speaking tasks can be of two types. They could be divergent or they could be convergent. Divergent tasks require learners to produce longer speaking turns. In contrast, convergent tasks include information gap, which can lead to minimal speaking turns. It is good for teachers to use divergent tasks in the classroom when they want learners to engage in a discussion or a conversation. These are some of the speaking abilities that need to be developed in all content courses. Learners need to give their own opinion. They need to agree or disagree wherever appropriate. Learners should know how to explain something. Making suggestions is an important skill of speaking. In an interaction, when two people are talking to each other, sometimes it is essential to interrupt in the middle. How can we do that in a polite way? Questioning is an important speaking ability which helps learners to confidently participate in an interaction. Learners also need to develop the skill of reporting. And finally, they need to know how to answer questions. Now we are going to look at some formal and less formal expressions that our learners can use in every content course to express their opinion. When it is a more formal context, learners can use expressions such as, "It is my view that," "I take the view that," "I believe." There are also some neutral expressions like "I think," "What I think is," "I'd say that," "It seems to me that," "It seems clear, obvious, evident to me that," "I have to say that," "I am not persuaded that." There are also some less formal expressions to give your opinion. These expressions can be used in informal situations or when the interaction is semi-formal. These expressions are, "As far as I am concerned," "I think," "To me." Now we are going to look at some useful language to agree and disagree in an interaction. When learners want to indicate that they agree with something, they can use expressions such as, "Yes, yes, that's right," "That's true," "You are quite right," "Oh, you are absolutely right," "I agree," "That's a good point," "That's what I think," "Oh, absolutely." Some expressions To partly agree with someone include, yes, okay, but, I see what you mean, but, I take your point, but, I accept that, but, that may be true, however, I'm not sure about that. Is there any evidence for that? Now we move on to some expressions that indicate disagreeing. But I don't think, but you can't really mean that. But there's no evidence for that. But that goes against. But what about? I don't really agree with you. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's true. I don't see how you can say that. When speakers have to explain something, there are certain expressions that they can use to explain ideas or concepts. Speakers can identify causes or reasons using the following expressions. That reason is, that's because, it's because of, that's because of, the one explanation for that is, what has brought this about, caused this. What's responsible for is. There are some expressions that express certainty or uncertainty. Let us look at some of these expressions. I think, it's likely that. I am certain. I'd say, it could be that, it could well be that, possibly, I'm sure, there's no doubt that. When the listener has to interrupt a speaker in the middle of an interaction, it is important for them to use polite expressions. Let us now see what are some of these polite expressions.